Hello and welcome back. In this video, we are going to create our sign up controller. Okay, so with that, we'll be able to upload an image and then create a new user and then publish a message. So in the source folder, I'll create a controllers folder, and then inside I'll create a file. Okay, so I'll call the file signup.ts. Okay, so for this, what we want to do in this file is, first we are going to validate. Remember, we already have a scheme or a schema to validate our input coming from request.body, because we are using a post request. So we pass the data through request.body, and we are going to use joy to validate. If it does not meet the criteria, we send a request or an error message. And then if it succeeds, we need to check, okay, the email or the password, does it already exist in the database? If it already exists, either the email or the username, then we throw an error telling the user that it's invalid credentials. Okay, then if that part succeeds, then we need to upload the user's profile picture. Okay, if it fails, we throw an error. If it succeeds, we then add the data to the database. And also, we are going to send another publish image, or we're going to publish another message, and the message is going to be the email notification. Now, the one we created first, if we go to the service, auth service, the one right here, this one is to publish the message to the user's service. We don't have the user service yet, but we are going to publish another message. This is going to be to the email service. Okay, we already tested it out. So let's go ahead now and start creating the function. So I will just export an asynchronous function. So export async function. I'll call this create. It's going to take a request of type request from express, and then it's also going to take a response of type response. Okay, and here we don't really need the next, so it's going to return a promise of type void. Okay, now we need to validate the data, so I'm going to use joy. So I'll say const, I'll return error. Okay, and then it will be await. Now if you want to return a promisified response, you can use promise.resolve. So if you want to resolve the response of maybe of a return data that is not a promise, you can call it inside promise.resolve. So inside promise.resolve, I'll add sign up schema, and then in the sign up schema we have the dot validate. Okay, so we have the validate method and we have the validate async. Now, I don't want to use the validate async. Yeah, it's the method to validate it asynchronously, but I want to use the validate method, but I want the method to be, the response to be returned as a promise. So here I'll pass in request.body. This is how we use this sign up schema. Okay, so with joy, it has two types of validation method. It has the synchronous and the asynchronous. The validate right here is the synchronous, and the validate async is the asynchronous. I don't want to use the validate async. I want to use this validate, which is the synchronous function, but I want the result to be returned as a promise. That's why I passed it as promise.resolve. Okay, so now this error object, it contains a property called details. Okay, so if there's an error, then the details property will be included in the error object. So error.details. Okay, so if there's an error, then this details object will be available inside this error object as well. But if there is no error, this is going to be, I think, null or undefined. Okay, so if we have error details, that means there's an error. Now, how do we throw the error? We just call throw new bad request error. Remember, we already implemented this. Now what we need to do is pass the error message. Now what error message do we want to pass? Remember, we already defined our own error messages right here. So to get the error message, you will say error dot details, because details is going to be an array. So at index 0 dot message. Okay, and then what is the other part? Where is it coming from? I'll say sign up create method error. Okay, so this is going to be error. Okay, so we validate the request body. If there's an error, then error.details will be available, and then we throw an error. Okay, else if there's no error, what we need to do is we need to check if the username and password already exist. But first, let me destructure. We are sending username, email, password, country, profile, picture. Okay, equal to request.body. Let's check something. Okay, so these are the properties we are sending back. We are getting it from request.body. Now let us check if the username or email already exists. We have a function for that. So const check if user exists. Okay, and this will return I/auth document. This will be equal to await. And let's go to the service. Let's see. The method we want to use is the get user by username or email. Okay, so we import this. So I need to import this function, and then we need to pass in the username or email. Okay, so here we want to check if the username or email already exists. Now we do pass a condition if check if user exists. So if the username or email exists, that means if we have data, then we need to throw another error right here. I'll change this to invalid credentials, email or username. Okay, so this is the message that will be displayed to the user on the front end. Okay, invalid credentials, email or username. Okay, so whatever the user used, this message will be displayed, and then we know that okay, this is coming from the sign up create method. Okay, now if everything goes fine, okay, what we need to do is we need to upload the profile picture. Now for this profile picture, I'm going to be using the base 64 encoded string. So from the front end, I'll send the base 64 encoded string. Okay, and then we upload the base 64 string. What I want to do is we need to generate this or create this let me check here, profile public ID. Okay, we need to create this profile public ID, and let me go to my package JSON. Let me see, I'm going to be using UUID. Okay, so I'm going to be using the library UUID, so to generate unique alphanumeric characters. Okay, so I'll open another terminal for my auth service and then type npm install UUID. Okay, so this is going to give us generate unique IDs. Okay, so I'll close this, and now let's first of all create our profile public ID. Profile public ID equal to, we need to import UUID. Okay, so here I'll say import v4. I think they have version 5 available. Let's check. So npm, let's see if what version UUID. Okay, let's see. It seems like version 5 is also available. You can see it's widely used, 71 million downloads already this week. Okay, there's version 5, there's version 4, and possibly there's version 5 as well. Okay, yeah, version 4 random UUID. So we are going to use version 4. Okay, so version 4 as UUID v4 from UUID. Okay, so we are using this because we want to generate some random alphanumeric characters, and this is how you use it. So with this, it's going to set the profile public ID. Now, remember I explained why we need the profile public ID, because we don't want Cloudinary to generate the public ID for us, because this is a profile picture, okay? So we want to use the same ID because we want the user to be able to update it multiple times. If we allow Cloudinary to generate the profile ID, and then we use the URL that it displays, that it gives to us, then when the user updates the profile picture, it's going to generate another URL with a different profile ID. But if we generate our own profile public ID, every time we update, we are still going to be using the same profile ID, okay? Or public ID. It's not going to change. That is the reason why we are using this profile public ID. Now let's upload. So to upload, I'll say upload results, and it's going to be of type upload. Let me see. Do we already have, let me check my package JSON. Do I already have Cloudinary? Okay, it seems like I don't have Cloudinary installed already, so I have to install it. Okay, so go ahead and install Cloudinary. So npm install Cloudinary. Okay, so just run this command and install it if you don't already have it installed. Okay, and then equal to, remember we already have the uploads method, so this is going to be await uploads. We already have the uploads method defined in our library. Okay, I think this UUID requires its own type, so just hover on it and then copy this one right here. So we install the type. Okay, and now this upload method will take in the profile picture. It will take in our own public ID, and then the other properties we want to set is do we want to let's check it. Yeah, do we want to overwrite? Yes. Do we want to invalidate the profile picture if it's in the cache? Yes. Okay, so we set overwrite to true. So if the user creates the profile picture the first time and then the user updates the profile picture, we are still going to maintain the same public ID, but with overwrite true, we want the previous image to be overwritten with a new one, and if the image is in the cache, we want to invalidate it. Okay, so we set this to true and true. Okay, so now with this, let me cast this here. Okay, so I'll cast this as upload API response. Now, if it returns a response, okay, if it returns a response, if there is no public ID in the response, that means there's an error. So if no upload.public ID, so because if it's successful, then it's going to return an object that contains this public ID. But if it's an error, then this public ID will not be inside this upload result. So if there's an error with the upload, then we are going to use the bad request error. We can say maybe file upload error. Okay, try again. Okay, so file upload error, try again. Okay, so if this does not contain a public ID, throw this error. And now let's stop here. In the next video, we'll complete this create method.